Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. Welcome to Electrical Engineering Labs at UPM. This video will be about digital multimeters and their functions. The digital multimeter is a measuring instrument that allows the students to acquire results from the constructed electric circuits, such as potential difference in volt, current in ampere, resistance in ohm, and so on. In our labs, we have two types of digital multimeters, as you see over here. Both of them have similar functions, but used in different circumstances. On the right, we have the more advanced sensitive digital multimeter. We call it Keithley multimeter. And to the left is the most common used type. We call it Fluke Multimeter. You have probably seen it before. The first one contains digital display, power button, and other buttons as well to choose which values we are measuring, some programming buttons with arrow keys, and finally 4mm plug-in inputs. As for the Fluke digital multimeter, there is digital display, also some buttons, a dial, or we call it rotary switch, to choose which values we are measuring, and lastly 4mm plug-in inputs. Now let's take a look at what both devices can measure. Right now, the dial and this button are switched off. This one starts by measuring AC voltage, and this one starts by measuring DC voltage. So if I want to measure the DC voltage over here, I will have to switch it to DC voltage, or to millivolt AC, ohm meter to measure the resistance, connectivity test, which I have shown you in the first video, and diode test as for the forward bias and reverse. This one is for the AC current, and finally DC current. Okay, let's switch it off. As for the Keithley multimeter, if I want to change the to AC voltage, I'll simply just click on it. If I want to change to measure the frequency, okay. If I want to measure the current, I will have to, you can see it over here in blue, I will have to click on shift and then click on it. Right now it's measuring milliampere DC or ampere in AC. In Fluke multimeter, I can also measure the frequency, okay, by clicking on the shift. This one, the yellow button, is the shift. So I'll have to click on the shift and it will be switched to frequency, which is in hertz. If I want to measure the capacitance of the capacitor, I will have just to put it on the diode option and then click on shift. It will be switched to nanofarad. I don't know if you can see it, but let me just get it closer to you. I hope you can see it. Going back to these inputs, you will notice we have different colors. If you look in the center over here, we have the black input, which is called the common, and represent the negative side of the probe. Also, we have the red input over here and represent the positive probe over here. If you notice, we are supposed to measure the current only using this input, not this one. This one we can measure all the other values, voltage and ohm and diode and the capacitor, etc. But over here we only can measure the current. Please be careful about this, because if you are not, you might just burn the fuse or damage the whole equipment. As for the Keithley multimeter, this red input is to measure the voltage, the resistance, the diode, and the capacitance. And this black input is the common, like in Fluke. These two white inputs are supposed just to measure the current. This one is for the high current up to 10 ampere or to 15 ampere, as indicated over here. This one is more sensitive and can measure current up to 3 ampere. Now you might be wondering, if both of them have similar functions, then why do we have two types? To answer this question, let's make a small comparison between these two types. The first thing you will notice is the size difference. This goes to the advancement of this device over here. It can measure down to microvolts and microampere. It's very useful, especially in electronics lab. Also, this type needs AC power supply. As you can see, this cord over here is connected to the AC supply. It's not portable, while this type over here is only powered by 9-volt battery, and you can carry it around. The Fluke Multimeter can only show results only through the digital display, whereas the Keithley is more advanced, and it has a USB port in the back over here. You can connect it to your computer and show your results, and even you can plot them and see the graph of your results through the computer from this device. This Y is more sensitive and more advanced. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will post some useful links for these two types down below. Check them out if you are interested. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.